Jack Bobo joins us now. He's the CEO of Futurity, a company that predicts global trends in agriculture. Jack, thanks so much for joining us. More than half of all Indians depend on agriculture for their income, but no doubt the sector in some ways affects everyone in that country. What impact have the protests had, and what impact might they have if they stretch on for several more months, as the farmers are suggesting?
Yeah, so food security and insecurity is obviously a big problem in India. However, right now, many of the farmers are rotating, so they'll spend some of their time at the protest while they have some of the family members that are still trying to produce food. But you also have this issue of the farmers currently are blocking many of the major roads into Delhi, and so it's actually difficult for food to get into the city, which is obviously one of the largest cities in the world. And so there are potential impacts in terms of family food security, but then there's just the broader question of what is this going to mean for food production in the future if this continues, because it's difficult to imagine that tens of thousands of farmers staying away from their fields is going to increase food production anytime soon.
The government says the new laws will empower the farmers who, for decades, have only been selling in designated wholesale markets that are controlled by state governments. They're regulated by these bodies. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the farmers will be allowed to sell directly to the buyers. Is that not a good thing for the farmers?
Yeah, well, today only about 6% of the farmers are really taking advantage of these programs at the moment. But those who do, it provides a floor for them. And I think there's a lot of concern that if they have to negotiate directly with large businesses, that they will do worse than going into these government programs where that they know that there's a minimum price that they're going to get. And so I think it's that uncertainty that shifting to this new program will actually have benefits for the farmer that is one, because over the last decade, farmers have been getting less and less income, farm size has been reduced, and costs have gone up. And so farmers feel that they're being squeezed more and more, and they're worried that this change will not be for the better.
All of those things you mentioned, we should note, has led to a very high suicide rate among farmers, disproportionately high for India. Indian agriculture obviously needs reform, no doubt, but it seems the government doesn't have a policy problem so much as it has a trust problem. How does it fix that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And one way, of course, that you fix it is to have conversations with the farm and agriculture community before you put the laws into place. It's very difficult once that has happened in order to have that kind of trust bring people together. Back in the middle of January, when the Supreme Court suspended the regulations and tried to help to mediate that conversation, it hasn't worked because there is that lack of trust that they're both working towards the same ends.
Bihar in eastern India scrapped the mandi system, those state-regulated markets, about 15 years ago. The farmers there didn't get any richer. In fact, they found themselves less protected. Why does Narendra Modi or anybody else think it would work nationally?
Well, I think that there's a hope that they can bring more investment into the sector and modernize it. So one of the reasons that it isn't worked as well is because if you don't have access to good information and you have limited places that you can sell your product, then obviously there's a power differential, and the farmers are almost always on the losing end of that. And the government believes that by bringing more players into the sector, that will create more competition, and farmers will have more opportunity to sell to the highest bidder instead of only having one source to sell their product. And the agriculture industry in India very much needs to modernize and become more efficient. Productivity has been declining for a long time, and so they do need new tools and they do need access to new opportunities. It's just a question of how one goes about that.